Two truths can't contradict each other, and this allows us to communicate. If it wasn't for this, it would be really hard to communicate. We'd be fighting all the time, and our opinions would just be flying around all over the place, and everybody would be disagreeing with each other and trying to figure out whose opinion was right. And we would have this economy with all these people with all these opinions, and they'd be building these audiences that would kind of follow them because the audience would decide, which opinion do I agree with? And then this opinion group would be fighting against this opinion group, trying to get to the answer. So we're going to have all these debates then, and this group against that group, and let's get to the truth, and let's have so we'd have an economy based on that. But because two truths can't contradict each other, an economy like that doesn't really make any sense, because it's just a bunch of opinions from people who came up with the right words. I wonder what would happen if we had an economy like that globally. And I wonder what would happen if we had an interconnected system called the internet and social media platforms owned by big technology companies that could advertise against that and do what's called monetize it. So they could make so much money that you wouldn't even know what to do with the money. There'd be so much money. So then they could invest that money in things that are fun for them to do. At least at the elites and the tops of those companies, they could just extract that money right out of the marketplace because they're pitting opinion against opinion against opinion, building audience and giving people an opportunity to build an audience in all of these different places where you could use video, you could use content. I wonder what would happen if that happened. I don't know. What do you think? Here's what matters. What happens next? What happens next? That matters. Do I create what's next? Do you create what's next as an entrepreneur or anyone who's self-employed? Whether you own a business, you're a coach, you're a whatever. Doesn't matter. What happens next? Nothing changes? Well, I'm looking at those numbers. You may be looking at those sales numbers and the rankings and the lists and the social media economy technology companies and saying, wow, look at that. That's a lot of money. And look at that popular person. They're raking in the dough. What an influence and impact they're making with all their opinions. And then you may wonder what's actually happening at home. You may actually wonder what's happening behind the scenes. You may be wondering, why is there a behind the scenes in the first place? Why is there a green room? That's what they call it in Los Angeles. Before someone goes on a TV show to do what? Why are they on the TV show? What's happening in the green room before the show? When the audience gets to see what? What do they get? What do they get? What do they actually get? Real results come from authentic stories. What is an authentic story? What happens when the economy is based on people promoting or selling how-to methods or distracting content that keeps me from not only sharing my real experience, but having one in the first place? What happens to the society? What happens to the economy when that's what it becomes? Most how-to content is what? Most marketing product is what? What entertainment industry product is what? Recycled fluff. Where do these products come from? Just ask yourself that question. The people who create them don't want to even make them. not the real creators. I'm not talking about the content creators. They want to do it and sell a how to do it, of course. That's how they make money. Same with the real creators of original content through creative artistry. Do they really want to make these movies they're making? Do they really want to make these shows they're making? Wouldn't they rather have the Beatles than the Monkees? Now, you may not know what the Beatles or the Monkees are, depending on how old you are. Look it up. Most of what's pushed doesn't matter to the buyer or the seller. What happens when we have an economy based on that, where nobody cares about what they're making or doing? In other words, they don't care about their product. They're marketing a product for profit. When did this start? The G word. Think about the G word, not the N word, the G word. There's an N word too. Think about the G word. I remember when G started and I saw the little box. I was working in a design agency, and our production designer was really good at technology. And we're all trying to figure out, what's it going to be? Is it going to be Ask Jeeves? Who's going to win? G1. It was glorious. All the world's content at your fingertips. The G word. Took me a few years to get in that industry, and then I did. I jumped in after reading a book called Wisdom of Crowds. And I thought, wow, this is it. The best stuff in the world curated for me. And I can be in that industry. This is going to be great. The few who succeed as originals are the exception. What if that changes? What if what's next is an experience sharing economy where originals always win? Interesting idea, isn't it? I've seen it in retail. I did it in retail. I've seen it in content. And I've seen it in the coaching industry. And I've seen the opposite. What mainstreamed? Creative originality or content creation for profit? What mainstreamed? Real value comes from real experience. Be a creative original through having a life of experience. Stage one, pay attention to it. So if I'm not paying attention to my own life, how can I have a real life of experience to talk about? What do they tell young writers? Live a little. So I'm going to talk about 5 stages you can go through right now to get real results from authentic stories, because you have one to tell already and you know it. You just may be a little off track. Why? Because selling how-to is mainstreamed. Start sharing real experiences, and what are you now? You're a creative original, like Radiohead, or Patti Smith, or Rick Rubin. How do you think they did it? Mark Benioff, Salesforce.com. Larry Ellison, Oracle. Bill Gates, Microsoft. Aren't you a creative original? Don't you have life experience? Don't you have interests? Don't you have things you care about? Share that. But you can't just talk it. You got to have a product. Who wins today? Who's going to win next? Who's always won? Best product. It doesn't appear that way. Most products are copied by people with money, corporations with money, investors with money. They're copied from original creators. What if we had something called AI, and you could teach the AI how to be creative? Not just copying, because you can't copy. It won't work anymore. Why? Because everyone's doing it. at scale with AI. So what do we get? Monkeys. Where are the beetles? They're right here. Channel your inner beetle. You'll be invincible. No one will be able to stop you. Ditch formulaic content for real lived insights. Substack, the new platform. I've been on it since last December. The how-to people just showed up because it's new to them. I'm like, this isn't why? Well, their course prices are going down. That's why they're there. Monkeys. They're trying to create the next boy band. Justin Timberlake had real talent. So I'm old, right? So I don't even know if you know what I'm talking about. I got all kinds of references because I pay attention to what's happening now. Weird wins, original wins. It's not weird. Two truths can't contradict each other. That's why when you get to the heart of it's called my truth. When I get to the heart of my truth and I share that, other people who are looking for that will get it because two truths can't contradict each other. Did Galileo actually say that? Share truth instead of tricks. What's a trick? How to do it. A hack, a trick. Why don't you share the truth? Attract customers who want more than shortcuts. What happens when you attract customers with shortcuts who want shortcuts? They leave for another shortcut. They're not exactly that interested. They're looking for you to remove their pain with your how-to method. Build trust by telling stories that actually matter. How can you do that if you don't know what your own story is or you don't have? Everyone has one. The stories we tell ourselves aren't true. How do you get to the heart of your real story? Grow your business from purpose, not fame. Fame. What happened if we built an entire economy based on popularity and fame? Where else do they do that? Think about this. Where do people focus on popularity, not purpose or real stories through knowing your own story or developing your own story? Think about where. It's called middle school in the United States. I don't know what you call it in your country if you're in a different middle school. Who wins in middle school? The kids who don't succumb or submit to that. Who goes through the most pain? The kids who don't succumb or submit to that. The middle school. I'm watching it live in my own neighborhood. I remember it too. Real stories connect. Marketing creators fade. What happens to the popular kids in middle school? There used to be popular kids in high school in the United States. Our high school where we live is like a junior college. There aren't any popular kids in this high school. There's just kids. It's like a junior college because you can find your group. Can't do that in middle school. I mean, you can, but it's harder. You got time to get in high school. Now, everybody's community is different. When I was growing up, it was high school, and then you go to college. Well, I went to a junior college, so I barely made it into college. And then I did. I figured it out eventually. And then people say, oh, you find your people then. Well, I found my people when I was 17 in Alcoholics Anonymous, but I'm not an alcoholic. So that was really strange. I made it work. Real stories connect. I learned about real stories when I was 17 years old, listening to people tell their life story. And I'm like, wow, you did what? How many tours of Vietnam, Lloyd? 3? How many people did you kill? Lost count. Were you in prison? Not for very long, he said. There was another Larry. He showed me a check for $1 million. I don't know if he was trying to impress me or just share his story. I was at his house, big house. Big. How'd you make all this money, Larry? Well, I do something called, um, I didn't know what he was talking about. He said, I trade commodities. Now I know how it works. He showed me a check for $1 million. He said, I get a lot of these. He says, you know where I spent it? I think he was trying to teach me a lesson. He probably knew I wasn't an alcoholic. I'm just some dumbass kid who ended up in AA at 17. He said, strippers and blow. That's where I spent my money. He says, you may want to learn from that. I'm like, it sounds like a pretty good life to me. The life you ran away from. I'm 17. I'm like, Jesus, that's a problem? It's hard to tell a 17-year-old boy anything. I don't listen. Um, Larry was, he smoked cigar. He looked like Larry Ellison. He had a beard. He smoked cigars. He was very confident on the outside. I heard the inside story. That's why I'm not swayed by the popularity contest, because I know the inside story. I got a lot of examples. I actually lived for 2 weeks before I got kicked out of the apartment in Paris on the Avenue Bosquet. It's one of the wealthiest parts of the city, the right bank in the 6th arrondissement, with a woman about my age at the time. What was it? 19, 20, whose father bought it for her. He bought her an apartment in Paris on the Avenue de la Bosquet. And she had an open room. And she's like, you want to live with me? I'm like, yeah. And your model friends are showing up every day? Sounds pretty good to me. And then she kicked me out after a couple of weeks. She's like, oh, I made a mistake. This guy's no fun. Well, she was right. She was right. Where'd that money come from? Father was a famous record producer, French. What did her mother do? #1 song, #1 globally for years. The checks are still coming in. I still hear it on the radio every once in a while. I'm not going to say what it is, because I saw the inner story. Abandoned children of the elite. That could be a book title or a movie. Abandoned children of the elite. I hung around with a lot of abandoned children of the elite. I do not come from the elite. Real stories connect, marketing creators fade. Those people were really suffering and struggling. And I remember saying this, and somebody's like, what do you feel sorry for the billionaires' kids? I'm like, I'm not feeling sorry for anybody. I never felt sorry for any of them. I just saw what happened. One of my friends was a model from near where I live. And her and her girlfriend, I asked her out. She's like, I got a girlfriend, Larry. I'm like, you got a girlfriend? That's fine. She says, no, you don't understand. We're in a relationship. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to work out, is it? She's like, no. I said, can we hang out at the cafe? And she's like, of course. And beautiful. Oh my God. Beautiful. Hard inside, tough for her. But she did it. She worked through her pain. One of my other friends, I could say his first name, Walter. I'm like, Walter, what do you do? He said, I'm a heroin addict. Where are you from? New York. What are you doing in Paris? I don't know how I got here. What are you doing now? I'm trying to get clean, Larry. I'm a heroin addict. What'd you do before? He says, I was in a band. That sounds pretty cool. I'm like, Walter, to me, it was super cool. I didn't understand. Richard, what do you do? I was always looking for a job. I was trying to figure out, can I become like a taxi driver in Paris? I actually tried. They're like, no, you can't do that. It doesn't work like that. You have a carte de séjour. You can't stay here forever and just wander around. That's what I was doing. I'm sleeping in different people's apartments. I'm just wandering around. Like, I don't want to go home. I wanted a real life there, like Larry from the Razor's Edge, not the Bill Murray one, the first one, Montgomery Clift. What did his father do? He owned an investment company. I'm like, oh, you got money. Oh, you got something to go back to. I'm like, I got my parents' basement and they moved. There was no basement in the new house. I got fireworks. What am I going to do? So I'm like, Richard, what are you doing? I've been here for 7 years. He says, I'm pretty much homeless. He's a great guy. He was a little older than me. I'm like, oh, this is what I have to look forward to. In Paris back then, you could jump the turnstile in the subway. And if they got you, the French police would check your ticket. I used to ride the subway for hours in Paris. And I just talk to people and watch. It was great. Pick up some words. People are like, what are you doing? I like Richard's life. I like Walter's life. I like Larry from the Razor's Edge life. That's what I'm doing. And I need to get a job. Like, the French government wasn't okay with it. And I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I tried to get into an international business school because I'm like, oh, I go to Thunderbird, it's called, or INSEAD in France. And I asked a friend of mine, I was like, I said, do you think I could get into the Sciences Po? In France, these are called Grande École. How do you get into one? Where'd you grow up? The 16th, Michelangelo Toy area. I'm like, oh, okay. Where'd you go to school? I went to the Sciences Po. Well, how'd you get in? Well, my dad was Secretary of Defense. Oh, that's how. How am I going to do this? I'll drive a cab. I work at a hotel. I wash dishes in restaurants when I was a teenager. I'll do that. I don't care. As long as I get to live here. I love it. Nope. Back to DC. Real stories connect. That's part of my story. Marketing creators fade. A fake story to get you to buy stuff from me has worked in our economy. I learned how to do it back in 2019, 2020. I bought the books. How do you create a fake story so people buy stuff from you so you can have a passive income? I'm like, I love this idea too. It worked out the same way Paris did. I'm learning French again, for real this time. I got a good accent. How did I get there? Bill Pierre Thayer III. He translated in Canada. The government requires everything to be in both languages because the Quebecers, you got to say both. Insist. I don't speak English. They will say, I speak French. You speak English too. And Bill was hired, paid a lot of money to translate. It was this thick. He showed it to me. It was how to plow the airport runway in Montreal. To Bill, traducteur and interprète. He'd only went one direction. That's how it worked sometimes. French to English or English to French. You got to pick. Some people could do both. That's a lot harder. I still can't speak French properly, but I understand what they're saying. And I can order. No, I can have a conversation. It just takes me a while. So I'm on Spotify. And I'm like, I want to remember how to do this, but I'll do it right this time. I'll actually put the work in. I was just screwing around. So were the rich kids. And, they'd sit back and they go, "Weh," trying to be cool with cigarettes and the whole, like they saw Lauren Bacall in a movie. Or no, it was Lauren Hutton. French loved Lauren Hutton. Loved her because she refused to use the accent properly. She just refused. And I was talking to my friend about it. And he's like, oh, we love that. It's doing it my way. Don't care. We need a little bit more of that in the United States right now. Too much popularity contest stuff. Wouldn't that be nice? Oh, now it really pissed people off. Real stories connect. That's part of my story. Did I want to be French? No, I wanted to live there. Instead, I spent years in flyover country where I live in Chicago. I've spent my whole life in flyover country. Chicago's flyover country. We got a big chip on our shoulder, by the way. You may not know this. Real stories connect. Here's the real story of Chicago. We built the Lyric Opera building backwards on purpose to say screw you to New York. That's Chicago right there. That's the mentality still. And when I used to go to Manhattan a lot, I was in Manhattan all the time when I had my distribution company, because all the apparel companies and brands and stuff are in Manhattan. No, it's not true, actually. A lot of them are in San Francisco. But the industry was centered in New York City. So New York was important. I was in New York at least twice a month. And every company had a showroom or a presence in New York. And the bosses were all there, even if they were from another country. So I was in New York all the time. And I'm like, I like New York better than Chicago. And I told people that, and they would get mad at me. And I'm like, Manhattan's pretty cool. They're like, no, it isn't. It's terrible. And I told one guy, he's like, have you seen the lakefront, Larry? You live in Chicago, right? Have you ever been to the lakefront? Now I know it's better. At the time, I was swayed by what? Think about it. New York. Not anymore. I don't care anymore. Chicago's awesome. Weather sucks. And they're ruining the city with the regulations. Not where I live. We live north, Evanston, Skokie. Our high school's like a junior college. It's great. Community's great. We have a dance company, not a dance competition. I always say that. No, it's a arts company for kids. They all start when they're 3. I didn't start anything when I was 3. I kept changing. In the hierarchy today, you got to start when you're 3 in the United States. I went to athletic camp, and then I didn't. I made a state championship football team in middle school. Those kids have been in athletic camp playing with their dad and training with their dads. I didn't do that. I didn't have that. I had a dad. He's traveling. He sold clothes on the road. And he was a good baseball player in high school. But, we used to throw the ball back and forth, but we just didn't have that kind of relationship. We talked about business. These kids have been drilled by their sadistic fathers from the time they were 3. I know they were sadistic because I was on the team. One of them was the head coach. Sadistic. His son missed a block. He threw a helmet at him. I hated that kid, the son. I hated him. And I was not popular on that team. And I was a good football player too. But they never played me because I wasn't popular. I didn't know how to go get along. I was angry. And nobody knew because I pretended not to be. I was very confused in middle school. Aren't most middle school kids? I didn't know that. I thought there was something wrong with me because I was told that. People told me, there's something wrong with this kid. There's nothing wrong with me at all. You take on the story. I took on the story. Real stories connect. I had to rewrite my story in the genetic code inside me and go through the emotional pain of it to transmute that pain into the real story, which is, wow, I made a state championship football team with a bunch of kids that went to athletic camp every day since they were 5. I'm pretty good because I like hitting people and I like getting hit. I don't have a problem with pain. 2-a-days in August is painful. In Chicago, it's humid. It's like living in Louisiana in August. And they gave me the jacket, state championship jacket. Every kid wore it to popularity school, which was called high school, for 4 years. I put it in the back of my closet. I didn't wear it once. Not once. I didn't care. I found the next identity. I moved on. I'm like, this didn't work out. Now, yeah, there's baggage. Sure. My biggest regret, I didn't throw my helmet at that asshole head coach. I wasn't trying to protect his kid. I hated this guy. It was the injustice. He didn't play me, and I was good. Real stories connect, marketing creators fade. So, what's this all about right now? Real results for you as an entrepreneur come from authentic stories. How do you get authentic stories? First, you got to stop selling your how to stuff or buying it. You got to just turn it away and say, don't get off social media. Just realize what's going on. It's on Substack now, too, by the way. I've been on Substack since last December. They just showed up this month. Start sharing real experiences, and you're going to get the kind of life that you want and make the money that